what I want to talk about is experience that Canada's had at the 4 most recent World Jamborees. Everybody picking this up?
Yes, you're sounding good, Doug.
Okay. Basically, every Jamboree has its unique character. We're starting off with the 20th World Jamboree in Thailand, which was unique in the Asian continent, on to 2007 Centenary Jamboree in the UK, 40,000 scouts, 180 countries, on to the next World Jamboree, which is in Rinkeby, Sweden, where there was quite a bit of emphasis on pioneering. Moving on to the 23rd World Jamboree, which is in Yamaguchi Precinct in Japan. And a lot of the flags from there. What will happen with all the troops and the IST is we will all be arriving at the Jamboree site from various locations. This is a group from the UK Jamboree. There will be a registration process, and my understanding is that they've got this one pretty well organized. In the registration process, there will be some sort of identification that everybody will receive. Don't lose it. As far as setting up, Jamborees are organized into sub-camps. This is the sub-camp set up from Sweden. This was UK. There will be individual sub-camps. There will be some things that will be a little different at this Jamboree, but in previous Jamborees, you can see the black tents here, which was peculiar to the German contingent. American Prairie First Nation. Bell tents from England. These are the kinds that Baden-Powell apparently used. Of course, there will be some recycling program, both on a sub-camp level and on a troop level. What do you do when you've got your site? This one will be a little different because, in fact, I believe that the tents, etc., are all going to be provided. This was what we looked like, one of our troops looked like in Thailand. Another Canadian troop in Thailand. This was in Thailand preparing pancakes for a gastronomic delight. This would be UK, Highlands Park. Again, Canadian tents. Some of the cooking apparatus that was available in the UK. This is a Canadian troop in Sweden with what their preparation arrangements looked like. And moving on to the Canadian tents in Japan, which were pretty distinctive. You could see those from quite an elevation above the Jamboree. Things will start off with an opening ceremony with flags from all the countries that are participating. It's usually in the daytime, but that's up to the Jamboree organizers. And what everybody will be struck with is the diversity of scouting around the world. Some groups will parade in with their musical instruments. This is a group of the Canadian Scouts in Japan. Not a bad idea to have a chair, some kind of sitting apparatus available. There will be a number of special events. This was, in fact, the ceremony for celebrating the 100th anniversary of Scouting. I'm not sure that we get away with as many balloons nowadays. At the sunrise service, we all had a scarf, and you got as many different other participants as you could to sign your scarf. I'm sure that this will happen at this Jamboree as well. A lot of visitors. This was in fact a Cub Pack visiting the Jamboree in the UK. Another special ceremony that will be familiar to some of you. This was Barry Mitchell getting his wood badge in the garden at Highland Park in the UK in 2007. One of the favorite activities is what we'd call gastronomic delight, where countries prepared some of their special gastronomic specialties and made them available to the world at large. This was what Highland House looked like in the UK, with a special visitor arriving. We were blessed with the future king. And this gentleman, if you can read his name tag, it says Robert Baden-Powell. Obviously a relative of Lord Baden-Powell, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I first met him at a jamboree in out west. This gentleman is the head of the World Brotherhood Fellowship. He's also the contingent leader for Sweden, and in his part-time, he's actually the King of Sweden. This, of course, is our Canadian Santa Claus. One of the special features of Jamborees is the cultural exchange that happens. And you will meet countries showing off some of their culture in many, many different forms. Some of them will be in their country contingent houses, some of them will be in the sub-camps, and some of them will be elsewhere on the Jamboree site. This young lady is from Thailand. That's a group of Thais at the World Jamboree in Thailand. Austrian Scouts. This is a Maori Haka from a group of Kiwi Scouts. Stick game, martial arts. This was a game that we tried to catch on to while we were in Thailand. It's called Bakra, and that thing up on the top there is a ball that you have to kick up with your feet into that basket. Quite challenging. There'll be opportunities for both contingent and troop participation in various shows. A group from Montreal. This is a group from Central Ontario, and this would have been at a equivalent of a campfire. These are actually not Thais. That's a Canadian, both of those are Canadian IST. Musical instruments are obviously part of culture, and you will be seeing a lot of variations. If you happen to play guitar or have a musical instrument, I would certainly suggest you bring it along. You may learn something as well. program is as varied as contingents can make it. Global Development Village is one of the places where you'll see a lot of program, and it will include everything from rope making to engraving, soapstone carving. This is actually was one of the Canadian activities at one of the jamborees. Some of the activities will be very specific to some cultures. Of course, there will be challenges. This was the obstacle course at Gilwell Park with one of the Canadian participants. Geocaching. Some races. Wall climbing. And the lost art of semaphore. Guys, you got to bring in his step. One of Canada's official sports. A hot air balloon in Thailand. And of course, cooking. Some jamborees have put a lot of emphasis on pioneering. This was the Polish contingent arriving with their airplane. A display put on by the Swedes at the 2007 Jamboree. Publicity for their Jamboree in 2011 was called Simply Scouting. Water activities, very popular. Lots of instructors. And by the time you get a lot of people out on the lake, there's a lot of boats. Some people, it was the first time that they'd been in a watercraft. Some group activities. We're probably going to see a little bit more of this sort of thing at this Jamboree because of the type of water that we've got in the area. Canada House was our home at all of the Jamborees that I've been to. This was how we put things together in Thailand with some displays from individual provinces. And over on the table there's a little cassette or CD player that played various Canadian artists. One of the favorites of Canada House. In 2007, at the Centenary Jamboree, they went back to a pioneering idea that I first saw at the 1967 12th World Jamboree in Idaho. East Toronto Troop had a gate looking similar to that. Inside the tent, some displays of various aspects of Canada. You'll notice a collection of contingent badges up behind, and he's stamping a passport. Hockey again. The crew from 2007. 2011 in Sweden. And then in 2015 in Japan, we went a little high tech, built a very large igloo, which became the home for Canadians away from home. It's a little hotter than the snow would suggest. A lot of visitors to Canada House internationally. And we went a little bit high tech with air hockey. Other countries will have their contingent headquarters and will bring along some of their games. You may or may not have seen this game from Finland. Scout Shop, very popular place for people to go to. My strong advice to leaders and IST is go as early as you can. One, the lineups will be horrendous. And two, they do tend to sell out of things. IST, things may be a little different at this Jamboree, but in the past we've had sort of contingent IST tent setups. This was in the UK. Our very distinctive tents in Japan. Wash facilities, this is what it looked like in Thailand. For those of you who aren't traveling with patrols, you may want to get something like this. You can get these at MEC and other outdoor stores. It basically is how you can wash up your laundry if you don't have a tub. Facilities at the UK. Dining facilities for IST will be a collective kitchen, hot meals. There will be some provision for some people who have special diets. Gives you a chance to have a break during the day and meet other folks. Some of the meals, that's bangers and mash, Cornish pasty, and that was Japan. I'm not sure what it was. Transportation in Highlands Park, contingent used a lot of bicycles. I think at this Jamboree there's going to be a lot of walking. If you're really lucky, you might get somebody to carry you there, but I don't think we'll have any horses. Communication, cell phones have been a part of things in the past, and I think as you're going to find out later, they're going to be an integral part of this Jamboree. One of the main things that people come away from a World Jamboree with is friendships, and the friendships may form for a lifetime. I still communicate with some of the gang that I met at the 12th World Jamboree in 1967. Most of the major countries in the world will be represented at this Jamboree. That's a patrol from around Barrie, another Canadian patrol, and another Canadian patrol. If you grow your hair a little long, don't let the girls get at you. Sharing t-shirts. Canadian rovers. Everybody looks forward to distinctive things that you can bring back from a Jamboree. The shoes are from the Dutch Jamboree in Drunton in '95. The backward ball is from Thailand. This is a top from Picarquín, Chile. One of the ways that you will have a chance to record what happens at the Jamboree is that there very likely would be a Jamboree newspaper. This was the ultimate of hard sell. When we were in Thailand on the floating river in Bangkok, they took a picture of you as you were going around and then tried to sell you a plate afterwards. An interesting use of scarves. This was the Brazilian contingent. But one of the major topics to talk about tonight is swapping, badge swapping. Watch for the badge stewards. Almost everybody swaps something. There's a bit of a hierarchy in badges that you should be aware of. For any jamboree, there will be a badge that's worn on the uniform, which is the one that's upper left, and then there will be a contingent badge, which is like the one in the right lower corner. Jacket patches. Again, the red one up the top is the one that was worn on the uniform. The one that was down the bottom right is an award that you could earn. And Canadian contingent badges there. The one in the middle is the one that was worn on the uniform. The one that's worn on the uniform is the one that's going to be the most significant long term in terms of if you want to swap badges later on. Other hierarchy of badges, if you will, is national jamborees and national contingents. Everybody has a district or a region badge. Those are the ones that probably make the most interesting swaps, because you will find every other country in this world has regions and districts. Because we're having this jamboree in the States, you will meet these. These are our CSPs, council shoulder patches. They come in all varieties. They also have something called the Order of the Arrow in the States, and you'll be meeting many Americans who are interested in swapping those. Alas, every jamboree comes to a close. There will be a parade of nations into the final amphitheater. It's usually held in the evening. You can see a lot of different nationalities there. Final stage productions and music. This is actually Scout Vesper. Some jamborees have fireworks at the end, but then the jamboree is over. This is a series of slides just as a caution. One of the things that will happen, particularly with youth, is that they will be burning the candle at both ends. There is a price to pay for it. Among other things, you get caught by photographers. And finally, when you do your post-jamboree tour, be careful what you get up to. That pretty much completes what I've got here. I'll pass it back to the rest of the folks.